Well, the field of Democratic presidential candidates is getting smaller. Marianne Williamson announced today she's suspending her presidential campaign. In a statement, she said that she will not be able to get enough votes in the election to elevate our conversation any more than it is now. Well, the news comes as a deadline to qualify for the January Democratic primary debate is tonight. So far, 6 candidates have made the cut for the next debate, which will be held Tuesday in Des Moines, Iowa. And they are Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, and billionaire Tom Steyer. Well, this debate is the last before the Iowa caucuses, the first nominating contest for Democrats, which will take place February 3rd. For more, I want to bring in our CBSN political reporter, Caitlin Huey-Burns. Okay, Caitlin, so, this is the thing about presidential runs. A lot of people know they're not going to make it, but it certainly elevates your profile.
Absolutely. Well, I think we can say the field got less zen after Marianne Williamson is leaving. She, talked a lot about love on the trail, and she talked about an institute of peace. She had a lot of, moments in the debate. I remember asking her after one how she did, and she was very candid and said, I think I was in my own head the whole time. So she did also, though, on a more serious note, talk a lot early on about reparations, which we know a lot of the candidates came to support throughout the campaign. But she really didn't have the resources. She wasn't making the debate stage and didn't really have the money to continue on.
So what happens now for her? Like, what do you believe? I mean, she's just out of the race, obviously, but does she have a following or something that somebody else would feel like they could pick up at this point?
It'll be interesting to see if any of the language that she's been using kind of translates into this race. But a lot of Democrats just really didn't take her seriously on that stage. And it's hard to see what her constituency within the Democratic primary is. But certainly she has a national following. And seeing her out on the campaign trail, people that came out to see her had read all her books, had been, known her from her connection with Oprah. And so she was able to make that really personal connection with people. So who knows if she may be a surrogate for one of these folks.
Interesting. I want to ask you about Tom Steyer. He's made the threshold, right, is my understanding. But what I've been watching from him is in South Carolina, he seems to be picking up momentum, number 2 right now, behind Biden. Is this a sudden new surge?
Well, it's really interesting to see that poll. It shows that money can get you pretty far, I guess, in this primary. Remember, he's been spending a lot of money on advertising. It's really difficult to, when you're in those early states, to watch TV without seeing an advertisement for Tom Steyer. So that certainly matters a lot. But our embeds in South Carolina and out west, Alex Tin and Lecrae Mitchell, have noted that he has really been staffing up. He has a huge operation in South Carolina, has been going to a lot of the major events there and trying to show a real presence on the ground. But it is really important to note that as these campaigns are trying to raise money, focus on the grassroots, that Tom Steyer is able to spend a lot of money to get a lot of these donors and get on the debate stage.
It's interesting. Biden was talking about this and mentioned Bloomberg, the same thing, that they are, there's no way you can compete when you have endless amount of money, that acknowledges that there is an advantage.
Absolutely. And we're seeing that here.
You were mentioning polling. The Des Moines Register is going to have a new poll out tonight at 6 p.m., which will be used by the DNC to determine thresholds and who can make it in. Who do you think, who hasn't qualified yet, will be looking at that poll? Is there anybody?
It is really difficult to see how anybody else makes this debate because Steyer was the only one really on the precipice there of making the debate. You have to get a certain number of polls showing you about 7% or higher nationally, or 5% or higher in these early states, and a lot of these candidates just aren't making it. Someone who will not be on the stage and probably won't throughout this cycle is Mike Bloomberg, who has said that he is not going to be focused on the grassroots donors because he is spending his own money, and we know he's spending a lot of it.
Speaking of spending money, he said he's going to staff up in places, and even if he doesn't secure the nomination by the summer, he will in fact continue to support whoever does, right? He's going to keep his staffing in place.
He is, and this is significant because Bloomberg has been running a nationalized campaign. Remember, we're not seeing him in Iowa and New Hampshire with all these other candidates. We're seeing him, this week's a good example, Ohio, Minnesota. I believe he's going to Texas this week as well. He has been running a national organization. And so if he is able to keep those organizers on the ground in support of the eventual nominee, if it's not him, that's significant for the party, especially as all of these other candidates are focused on their own campaigns right now and don't have the resources, quite frankly, to focus beyond the Super Tuesday states when you think of organizers and staffers. So this could be significant. I think Democrats wanted Bloomberg to spend a lot of money on this race, but just not necessarily for himself. So this could be one way that he comes off looking like a team player.
So House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said that she's going to release his articles of impeachment. She's not going to hold on to them indefinitely, likely next week. We've got 5 Democratic candidates who are in the Senate. How is this going to work out if there's an impeachment trial?
Right, and we're just 3 weeks to Iowa, and a 3-way tie in our poll shows that this is a race that is still very fluid, and a lot of these candidates would much rather be spending as much time as possible in Iowa.
And they like to see you in Iowa and New Hampshire.
And they like to see you, exactly. So that face time matters. There was a Politico article out today in which Elizabeth Warren was actually pretty candid, saying, look, of course it matters. You know, she's someone that does 3.5-hour long selfie lines. We've seen them. That kind of interaction, and especially in a race this close, where for a lot of these folks, getting out of Iowa in the top 3 is going to be make or break, really, for their campaigns. So you kind of are starting to sense a little bit of a frustration about the timeline and kind of how they're going to do this. Now, they do have operations in place to make sure they're there. You're going to see a lot of surrogates. You're going to see a lot of things done virtually. But does it make up for that hand-to-hand contact remains to be seen, especially when you have Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg out there not having a real day job to worry about.
Interesting. Thank you, Caitlin Huey-Burns, for joining us.
Good to see you.